Hello Flosstube, my name is Deb. I am the Traveling Stocking Stitcher. And today's episode is What the Hawk Run Hollow Stocking? Yeah, there's going to be a Hawk Run Hollow stocking. You'll have to stay tuned to see that. Today we're going to be talking about cross-stitching, specifically villages. I've got a lot of designs that involve villages. They also happen to include bells and Christmas carols, so we'll be talking a little bit about that as well as Christmas is approaching. Now I like to have a tie-in, either something in my outfit or something that something that I have with me, and I thought about dressing like the village people, but there's only one of me, and that would involve a lot of costume changes. I thought about maybe wearing a dunce cap and being the village idiot, and considering how many times I had to frog something out this week, that seemed sort of appropriate. But instead I just decided to wear this shirt that has a village on it. You can sort of see that up in here there's a village going on, and trust me, pattern repeats down below. So that's my tie-in for the week. To get started, let's talk a little bit about Christmas songs. This is a fun fact for you to share around the Thanksgiving table, which is coming up in the US soon. Did you know that Jingle Bells was not originally intended to be a Christmas song? It was written called One Horse Open Sleigh. It was written intended to be a Thanksgiving song. And if you really look at the lyrics, there's nothing explicitly mentioned about Christmas at all. It's about people riding around in a sleigh and having fun. So that's a fun fact that you can share. Once you've exhausted your sweet potato versus yam argument, which we hold every year. Back before Google, we actually one year consulted the Encyclopedia Britannica to resolve that particular issue. It was a simpler time, back when the worst argument you could get into was whether you should have jellied or whole cranberry sauce. Anyway, let's get started with the villages. Now this first one I have is Christmas Village Stocking, very generically named, Kooler Classic Charts. It was designed by Nancy Rossi, and I don't know, I think they might have picked up some old designs that had been out of print and reissued them, but they really need to get a different digitization because the pictures just don't even look like the real things. It's really hard to see, and if you're trying to use a reference, like this didn't have any real backstitching on it other than like the trees, and I just thought it needed a little more backstitching, and I had a really hard time telling where things started and ended, and this picture was not at all helpful for doing that. But here it is. And this one's been hanging around for a while. I stitched this one, 2 years ago. And when I did it, I did all the stitching, and then like I said, there wasn't a lot of definition. And I just felt that it could use a little bit more. I think I have a picture I'll insert here of what it looked like without the backstitching, and then I'll try to show you where I've done the stitching. Now, I live in Minnesota, and I know that things blanket, the snow blanket stuff and everything, but it just needed the houses, trying to decide where one thing ended and the other picked up was a little tricky. And then when you get up to the top and the mountains and stuff, it's a little vague. But there it is. Now I haven't finished this one because after a year of stitching it, and then I waited a year to backstitch, and now I've waited yet another year to actually put the backing on it. And I was thinking about getting creative. I've always stitched things by hand because I'm really not a sewer. It's kind of ironic that despite the fact that we as cross-stitchers spend so much time with needle and thread and fabric, pulling it in and out and in and out, we don't really like to stitch that or sew that much, it seems. There's a little bit more people that do quilting and stuff, but not a lot of sewing people out there. And that's kind of where I am. I sew things by hand. But I have had a couple of questions, some comments from people asking about how I put backings on things and if I was going to do a tutorial. And it got me thinking, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to up my game. I need to learn how to use a sewing machine. I need to learn how to put a lining in. And one of the other ones I'll show here, I want to put a cuff on one. And so that's where I started thinking I need to learn how how to sew a little bit better. So my neighbor next door is a very accomplished quilter. So Katie and I got together and started talking about it and looking at YouTube videos and stuff. And there's different ways to go about it, but I chickened out essentially, and was just afraid that because you put things back to back, or the wrong side together, and then if you put a liner behind it, you suddenly lose visibility of your pattern, and knowing where the edges are just worries me that I'm going to cut off the design somewhere and not make a real clean seam. So that's the part that scares me. So for right now, Wenceslas is not backed. We'll see if he makes it by Christmas. So I like to put Christmas theme names on there, and I chose Wenceslas for this guy because it looks like a European village. And it turns out that Wenceslas was a real guy. He was the Wenceslas the First, Duke of Bohemia, and he lived in an area that is now the Czech Republic in about the 1900s. And I didn't have room to put Good King Wenceslas on there, but I thought about it. It's like, it's a stocking, and when you put up your Christmas stockings in the family, I'm guessing that his mother didn't say, "Hey, Good King Wenceslas, eat your vegetables. Good King Wenceslas, go make your bed." So they probably just called him Wenceslas around the house. Plus, Santa, he doesn't need any help. He's got his naughty and nice list. He knows who's who. He's not going to go, now is this the good Wenceslas, or is this the plain old Wenceslas? And then I got to consult the list. That's probably not true. And it so happens that Wenceslas had a brother, and his name was Boleslas, and it was Boleslas the Cruel. Good King Wenceslas and Boleslas the Cruel. So he actually ended up ordering his brother's assassination. So he had his brother Wenceslas killed off in real life. Santa could figure out who's getting the coal in that family. So he doesn't need my help. And if Santa's that gullible, I'm going to change my name to the Most Honorable Good Queen Deb. See if that works. I don't think Santa's easily duped like that. So the Christmas Carol was originally written for the Feast of St. Stephen, and it was the day after Christmas. You guys in the UK celebrated as Boxing Day. In the US, we celebrate it as the Unwanted Gift Return Day. And the song itself, King Wenceslas, when I was looking through this, I was reading through the lyrics, and I don't remember ever singing anything other than the first verse, which is kind of weird if you look at the lyrics, because the thing is like a 1980s miniseries. Each lyric kind of has this cliffhanger that doesn't, you kind of keep going, keep going, keep going. Because the first lyric, the first verse, is just kind of, Good King Wenceslas looked out on the Feast of Stephen, and he saw this guy roaming around looking for firewood. End of story. That's the only verse you read. Doesn't do much for you. So 5 verses later, you get around to, and he and his manservant tracked through the snow and the cold and finally found this guy and gave him a meal. So it's a long way to go for the story, but just that first verse just ends abruptly and pointlessly, so you got to keep going to the end. And that's it for Wenceslas, except for one joke that I found on the internet while I was doing my research, and it is, how does Good King Wenceslas like his pizza? Deep pan, crisp, and even. Next up, I've got a design called I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And I bought this a while back on eBay. It's cut out of a magazine. That's what it looks like. And it was in Cross Stitch and Country Crafts Better Homes and Garden magazine, January and February 1996. And I thought originally, my last video I showed you, and I'll show you the finish here, Leonardo Noel, I did one, and I thought maybe it was the same designer because they used a lot of Algerian eyelets, and they used cross-hatching of long stitches, and kind of was very similar. So I dug this one out. Designer was Patricia Andrle, and turns out it wasn't the same designer, but it reminded me of that one. And so here's what I've got so far. And this is the thing I was frogging on, that I don't know why it was so hard for me to do. I'm doing it on linen. That might be part of my problem. I don't do a ton of stuff on linen and the schlubs and stuff. So this is I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And you can see the Algerian eyelets in there. And I talked about the cross hatching over the door. Here are some long stitches. You use one color to go one way and another color to go the other way. It's not showing up real cool, but it's a nice effect when you see it in person. I like this, but I wasn't sure how I was going to use it. You know me, I like to make things into stockings rather than having to frame them. And it's square, and I wasn't exactly sure what to do. So more on that in a minute. So as I'm stitching these things, I'm thinking about, well, what's the story behind this stuff? And I did a little research, and it turns out I either didn't know or didn't remember that the lyrics, it was actually a poem that was later set to music, was written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He's the American poet who wrote Listen, My Children, You Will Hear the famous Ride of Paul Revere. He wrote Song of Hiawatha, but he also wrote I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And the story behind it is that his wife was sealing up, using sealing wax, and set fire to her dress when she was trying to seal up an envelope. And he tried to put out the fire. As a matter of fact, he was so severely burned that he ended up growing a beard to cover the scars. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to save her, and she did sadly die. And so he became very despondent. And a couple of years later, his son Charlie joined the Union Army and was severely injured in the Civil War, American Civil War. And on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, he wrote the lyrics to this song. And there are some lyrics that are specifically, or that are explicitly about the Civil War, but they typically are not sung at all. But the last two, the first verse is actually in the design, and the last two stanzas of the poem I read, and I thought, you know what, this is a square. I wasn't sure how to do it because it's a square shape, and I needed something to fill out the toe if I do it as a stocking. But I thought what I'll do is I will put the last two verses and kind of run it lengthwise and run it to make the toe out of it. And I'll just kind of put a staff of music and put the lyrics on there. Because the lyrics are, and in despair I bowed my head, there is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. And, right now there's so much hatred and anger and violence in our country right now that if you take the long view, you think about, we've been through a civil war, we've been through a couple of world wars, 9/11, eventually good wins. And so I thought that would be a nice sentiment to put on there. So I'll use those two stanzas and put those across the bottom. And as far as the name goes across the top, I was thinking, when people do the samplers, the reproduction samplers for young girls that have done these in the 1800s, I thought that maybe I would put either the name of his wife, which was Frances, or somehow honor the family of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and maybe his son Charlie, who was injured in the Civil War. So I'll maybe put one of those names at the top. It's not a typical Christmas character that you think about, but I thought it'd be a nice way to tie it in with the song. It won't mean anything to anybody else, but I'll know what it is. So that is I Heard the Bells. And then you've all seen some Hawk Run Hollow stuff, right? Well, I was looking at Hawk Run Hollow on a variety of people's floss tubes, and I like them. I'm not a sampler person, I'm not a primitive person, but this has got maybe a little more color to it. It's got, I thought, oh, I kind of like those. I like those. And I looked at these, and I've heard a lot of stitching. It takes a long time. It's very intense stuff. And then I don't maybe like necessarily all of them, but when I start looking at something, I see things as, if I take 3 of these out, it's an L. So if I only stitch 9 of these, I can make it into a Christmas stocking. And I can choose the 9 I like the best. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to start with, I'm going to kind of stagger them so they kind of hear where they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll do the peacock, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And then next to it I will put the people skating. And then I'll put the carolers on the second one down. And their old familiar carols play will be next to that. And then on the third row down, I will have I'm going to use the birds. Oops, where are the birds? Right here. And I will use, and wild and sweet, the words repeat. I'll put those words in here instead. Because I'm not a, I'm not a sampler with the letters and stuff, so I'm going to swap out this one here and not do that one, but put the words on to the bird one. And next to that, let's see. And oh, I'm going to put the shoe. No, I'm going to put the house next to that one. And then I'm going to say on the toe, peace on earth. I'll put the boat, ship in the middle, and then goodwill towards men. So that's what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. I think they recommended doing this on like a sort of brownish kind of thing, and I'm not a real brown neutral thing. I got a gray instead. This is a 22 count water gray hard hanger, and it's a white gilt. I think it's white gilt. And here is what we have so far. And I had to go pretty small because I think they say doing 1/2 on 40 count, but this is a 22 count, which actually is smaller. But otherwise it was going to be a huge stocking. So this is what I've got so far. I'm really enjoying this. I'm having fun doing that. And I thought it was going to be okay. I didn't think there was going to be, looking at the initial pattern, any small stitches, but there is a 1/1 section, little tiny stuff in the tree, at least on this first pattern. There's a little bit of 1/1, so I'm working my way through that to figure out how to do that best. For right now, I'm just kind of piercing just the quarter stitch in, and I'm not crossing it over. I'm just going to fit the quarter stitch because it's so small you won't notice the difference. So, but this is where I'm at. So that's going to be my Hawk Run Hollow, or Christmas and Hawk Run Hollow stocking. Just going through my stash of things that are village related. I've got some of these. This is a book that I got, I think at a garage sale somewhere, 3D cross stitch. Oh, I'm going to get a lot of glare on there. And it's going to be a little tricky for me to show these because the patterns are on the same page, but there are a few places where you can sort of get, here's like a whole village of 3D things. And I think these would be fun to do. I don't know if I'll ever do them, but I really like the church in the back that's got this, whoops, kind of tower thing going on. I like that. And I really like I think this is the Swan Inn, a pub with the half-timbered look there. And also the thatched roof down in the corner over here is a fun one. So this is by Meg Evershed, and Hamlyn is, I don't know what Hamlyn is, it says Hamlyn, Hamlyn. So, and they've got, like I said, these little, a couple of bird houses on the front, and a couple things on the back here. They even have a little thing where they've got some boxes and stuff, and some dollhouse furniture they can make. But the village thing seemed like it'd be kind of a fun thing to do for a Christmas village. Here's a book that, quite obviously, I got at a garage sale for $1. Donna Kooler's Christmas, or Cross Stitch Christmas. And what I like is on the back here. I don't know that I would make this. But what I like about it is it's got this village. And I'm always looking for things to run across the toe. And this is something that I could run this out along the length of something that's, more square. And so that seems like it might be fun to do. I think this is called Winter Wonderland. It's not really clearly marked, but it's in this book from, if I can find it quick, what year is it? 1994 looks like the original printing on it, so that's the copyright for it. So that's a fun cottage one. And then one other one that I bought this one because it reminds me of Ireland, and this is Derwentwater Designs. And I found this on eBay, and it's in the package, so it's going to get some glare on here, but it's got the thatch roof. We went to a little town called Adair that had the thatch roof cottages, and it reminds me of that little church tower like this. This is the Poppy Field Lane, and this kit's got the kit with everything in it. And so I thought that was a lovely little village. And then one other one that I don't have, but it kind of fit this theme that I think I will probably be getting at some point, is Quaker Hometown. I'll put a picture of it up here. And this is it's a German Werkstatt für historische Stickmuster. I think that's cross-stitching in German. And Dorothy Kanzi is the designer on it, but it's really cool. It's got kind of the Quaker thing. It's got a village going across the middle. It's kind of got a Christmas theme to it, feel to it. So kind of the red and green. So that's another one that I really like that I'll probably be getting at some point. That's all the village things I have for right now. Let's get into some of my whips that I have. So I mentioned Leonardo, and this is one that I was hoping to have finished for you, but I chickened out on the finishing. I want to do a cuff on him, and here he is. I just adore him. I think he's fabulous. I really enjoyed the black work in there. I think I would like to do more black work stuff, and there he is. Last time I saw him, I was just getting going on his beard. I don't think I will. It's the Whisper White, and I had a couple conversations with people about brushing it out, and I kind of like the way he is. Maybe he'd look a little better if he was scraggly and fluffy, but I think maybe I will try that on one of the others, the Sugar Plum Fairy, the tutu. I didn't get courageous enough to ripe out do the brushing out of her tutu. I think I might do that. I think part of it is it's kind of an off-white, and if you have something that was on real white, it kind of unsettled me that it looked a little bit dirty. So I don't know, I thought if it looked scraggly and dirty it would be a worse combination. But here he is. And there you see these Algerian eyelets kind of in the corners here, and there he is. So I really hope to get him done. Next video, I really want to have him finished to show you in a stocking. So I've got a little idea for what I want to do there. Alright, another whip that I'm pretty close to getting done on. I showed you this, I think, last time. But it's fresh out of the Q-Snap. I'll show you the picture first. Mystic Stitch Ink, London, VTO8 is the model, or the name. They're recently out of print. But it's a reproduction of a travel poster. This was the blue. They wanted you to stitch all the background in blue, and I looked at the actual travel poster, and it's white or maybe cream depending on how they reproduced it, but it's not blue, so I didn't bother with that. I just stitched it on white fabric because that looked more true to form. So here it is. I don't quite have the London name finished yet, but I've got the whole tower done on Westminster Abbey. I've got the whole tower done on the Tower of Big Ben Elizabeth Tower, and then the monument over to the side there, and just working on the last. This will be fun because it's going to have some of the stained glass windows on it in the middle of Westminster Abbey. So I don't know if I want to show it too close up because it looks better from a distance. It really does. Even my husband, when he walks by this every once in a while, goes, "Wow, that looks really cool." He didn't think it would look like much first, and I kind of was with him. And I'm not a real big full coverage person, but this was just enough full coverage with a lot of confetti, but it wasn't stitching the whole thing, and it wasn't wallpaper your wall with it. So just enough to not totally make me nuts. So I'm very happy with how that guy's looking. And this last one, I wish I could show you that I have more progress. I have a little bit of progress since the last time I showed you. It's been a couple of videos ago. And I was going to stitch on this maybe a strand a day, and hasn't worked out. But a couple of people inquired about what the progress has looked like. So that has motivated me to get a little bit more done. And so this is Mary Hickmott's Rose Window from Reims Cathedral. And this is what I've got going. It's on black. It's all Kreinik and DMC blend, every single stitch. And here we go. So I've got a little bit more green in there than I did. There's two blues. You use the same color blue Kreinik, but you pair it with, you blend it with different intensities of DMC blue. So one's a darker blue up top here, and then over to the side. Over to the side over here is a lighter blue down here. I've got some green in here. I've got the red going around the middle that I didn't have before. So it's coming along. A little slow progress, but it'll be pretty when it's done, I think. Shout-outs. I'm a little bit remiss because I've had two different episodes that I could have shouted this person out and forgot to do it. I did at my Elves and Fairy video, and Stephanie, the On Point Stitcher, has a couple of fairies that she's done. She's done a night fairy that's just really, really beautiful, and her channel's called the On Point Stitcher because she's a dancer. So she's shown a ballerina. I had a ballerina in my Sugar Plum Fairy stocking that I showed last time around, and so she's got some ballerina things that she's shown as well. One that her mother recently did for her. It's just gorgeous, very, very pretty. Because she was a dancer, so she liked that, and she was thinking about getting that particular pattern as well. And then she also, for my angel videos, I could have called her out for her blue angel piece. She has this beautiful blue angel that is just really, really pretty. You got to go look at her stuff. And she's really, really close to getting 1,000 subs. So let's go put her on her toes and go check out the On Point Stitcher. Go see her. As far as seal of approval for this particular episode, I think for Villages, the Lancaster Stitcher, I really enjoy her stuff. She's in the UK, obviously, and she's in Lancaster. And she not only does a lot of fancy lady stitching and things like that, but she also shows, she leads hikes and goes on hikes throughout the English countryside, and she shows pictures of those. And so, you know, sometimes she goes through villages and stuff. So I thought that was an appropriate shout out for this one. So go check out Lancaster Stitcher. Lynn is her name. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad you were here, and if you like it, click the little thumbs up. If you want to subscribe and you haven't already, that would be fantastic. And I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.